good to worship God. It's good to worship God who created us and created all things. I thought of that when we were singing about the creation of the universe. It's amazing when you look up at the stars at night. There's a lot on the planet, of course, that's changed, but it's neat to think that the people in the book of Genesis and Exodus, out in the wilderness wanderings, they're looking up at the same star patterns that we look up at. If you're like some backyard astronomer, you like stargazing a little bit. I've been into that a couple times in my past, just a little bit. Bought a cheap little telescope. It's fun to learn to identify what's up there in the sky and see these star patterns every night. They're called constellations, of course. Maybe you don't know this, but the word constellation comes from a Latin compound word con or com, meaning together, and stellation is from stella, which is the Latin word for star. They're stars that are together. So we build these little dot-to-dot images up in the sky, and we learn where the Big Dipper is, which is part of a bear or some major, and you see the little W in the sky, that's Cassiopeia, and you got the North Star connected to the Little Dipper, and you start to learn some of these things, and they become familiar to you once you learn the patterns of looking up at the stars and seeing all the constellations. But every now and then, you'll recognize that star pattern that you see is all of a sudden changed. I mean, it's odd how that happens, and you look up and you see like the addition of another star, and well, that wasn't there before, and it actually makes that constellation look a little different. And then in a few days, it goes away and it's not there anymore. Well, at least that's what people thought. Of course, they're not stars at all. If you know anything about astronomy, those are planets that come and go. It's Saturn and Jupiter and Mars and Mercury even early in the morning. Those are not stars, they're planets. And planet, you might need to know, is a word that's just derived from a Greek New Testament word. Of course, the Bible's written in Greek, the New Testament was at least, and that language became the basis for so many of our English words. And the word for planet is just a transliterated word, which really means a wandering star. That's what it means. I mean, it's the verb to wander, planero. It's to go and come and then you leave. You come and then you go. It's a planet, the wanderer. Well, there's a book of the Bible that talks about wanderers, and 2 verses at the end of the little book of James that speaks of wanderers, not as stars, so to speak, that come into a constellation and leave, but people that are transient, that come into churches and they're there for a while and then they leave. And it's not just an observation, some indicative observation of how the church works. Here is a book that says, listen, you folks who are a regular part of the church, you're fixtures in the church, like a constellation, a team of stars, a faithful group of people who meet together in the body of Christ, in the flock, if you will, of God's pasture. If you are a Christian, that is your commitment, to be assembling together faithfully. Well, occasionally there are people that wander in and then they wander out, and the end of the book of James says you should care about those people.